Slowly but surely, 6th Job is being used as a way to take underperforming abilities and weaker classes and give them a more modern feel. However, the only problem with this method is that it can take a while. And not only that, if you have a class that feels terrible to play before 260, well, a lot of players just may never get it to the point to actually see when they become good. Or in some cases, just become better. Now, Hexa boost nodes are used to take underperforming abilities and again give them a more modern feel. But what happens when you have a class that has all underperforming abilities? The title may be a hint, but spoiler, you get Phantom. Phantom is without question one of the worst, if not the absolute worst class to play before 260. As if a damage output that rivals a kitten with marshmallows tied to his paws isn't bad enough, if you're a newer player and you don't have the game sense of what to steal or have the thought to look up the information from other poor souls who have chosen the Phantom class, then you're in for a miserable time leveling a character. I would even go as far to say that you would be better off just picking the Mercedes class and ignoring their combos altogether and treating it like it was a regular ass archer. It would probably be a better experience than Phantom pre-260. However, if you stick with your Phantom and you raise it up to 260 and you suffer through that job advancement and grinding all the fragments to get their abilities actually functioning like normal abilities, congratulations, you now function about as well as almost any other class in the game does before 5th job advancement. Now that's not to say they're bad, no, there are just a lot of classes that are really good before 4th job. A Lin at level 30 has about the same mobbing capabilities, ignoring the damage of course, that a Phantom does at 6th job. That is a little bit sad, whatever, classes are going to have strengths and weaknesses. And even though that may be a little bit of an exaggeration, anyone who has played a Phantom past level 200 knows that they just suck. It's actually only thanks to the Dark Ride update and the 6th job EXP reduction that came with it that I was even able to think about advancing my Phantom without throwing up in protest. Transitioning into 6th job, my expectations were pretty high. Well, high in the context of the Phantom class. Thankfully, it didn't actually disappoint. I was really excited to test out their very similar to Xenon's modal shift for their Mila Giles, or 1000 Needles in English, and that is their old bossing attack. But now you can either switch it between a bossing attack, which is better than its old version by having a much larger AoE and a much more satisfying animation, or you can have an ability that is very similar to your average 4th job mobbing ability. Sadly, that means that everyone else is going to 6th job mobbing abilities, while Phantom unfortunately is stuck doing 4th job AoE, but considering before that they were using a Pathfinder 2nd job ability, hey, we will take it. And unfortunately, they say that good things come to those who wait. Unfortunately, in Phantom's case, we waited many years to get our older siblings hand-me-downs that aren't even good enough to donate to a secondhand store. Now, don't get me wrong, that sounds a little ungrateful, and in a lot of ways, Phantom is actually the most improved in terms of AoE capabilities, given that they went from nothing, aka stealing the Pathfinder 2nd job ability, to just getting something that is good and usable, and what most classes would be pretty content with is very good. Now, as for the standard bossing mode of the ability, even better. Mila Giles was already a pretty good ability. Your standard hurricane move, with the downside that you can't jump while doing it. Hopefully, Phantoms can get that update as well, just like Wind Archers just did. But it's bigger, it's more satisfying in the animation department, and just all around more satisfying as a result. What else can I really say about it? It's bigger, it's stronger. What more could we want other than the ability to jump? Maybe move faster as well? Tempest, on the other hand, got such a massive overhaul. It went from being an ability I was almost dreading cooldown resetting despite its damage increase to something that really makes me excited. The defining trait of the Tempest ability prior to 6th job is clunkiness in every single aspect. Long cooldown duration, can't move while casting it, you are slower while casting it, and it's got this ludicrously long ramp up time to get to its full AoE. Now it ramps up to full size almost instantly, does more damage in a shorter amount of time, and just all around feels way better with a shinier animation. I've even 6th job advanced 8 classes personally so far, and of all of the abilities I've Hexa boosted, Tempest was by far the #1 most surprising and probably most satisfying change. Next to Cannon Master's AoE going from this long thin needle to an actually pretty decent vertical range AoE ability. As for the origin skill, there's really not much to say about it. It's an origin skill, it is what you would expect, although I will say the animation is absolutely gorgeous. Granted, when it comes to this, I'm heavily biased because blue and purple are my 2 favorite colors, and just look at this, the background is beautiful. And the cast time also isn't too egregious, which coming from someone who means Dawn Warrior, I really appreciate that, because when you press Dawn Warrior's origin skill, you can pretty much go make supper. I am I'm quite excited to see what the 3rd and 4th Hexa boosts bring to the Phantom class. They're boosting some abilities that I am pretty critical of. I think the cards could use some improvement, and they're adding some added functionality to it, and more importantly, they're taking Phantom's stupid little sudden raid wannabe ability and boosting that, so hopefully that can become good. Now, if you were to ask me, hey, should I level a Phantom? Like, is their 6th job so good that it's worth leveling? I would probably say no. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of, quite frankly, annoying gameplay getting to the point where they become worth playing. But if you really do like the theming of Phantom and you're willing to do the hard work for it, or maybe have a hyper burn to spare, honestly, not a bad pick. People are way more harsh on Phantom than it really deserves. With 6th job in mind, if we took 6th job out of the picture, absolutely Phantom needs a rework, and I really still think they should get it, because no new player should look at Phantom and go, hey, I really like this class's theme. Throwing cards, stealing, Master Thief, cool. Then they get the unfortunate privilege of playing probably the worst class in the entire game until you get 260 levels in, which for a newer player is going to take some time. Not only that, but their entire enjoyment of that experience would pretty much entirely hinge on seeing a 6th job Phantom and seeing that things get kind of better, or never seeing a single other class or playing another class and seeing just how much better things could be if you had picked one of the 50 something other classes. Despite that opinion, I'm actually quite happy with the Phantom class. Prior to these changes and to 6th job and stuff, I was describing leveling my Phantom as a gamble or an early investment in what hopefully was a future rework. But as it turns out, their 6th job makes them so much more enjoyable that I'd say that moment has already arrived. If nothing were to ever change about how they function and it just was damage increases, I'd be pretty content. I do still think they're on the weaker end of the classes I've experienced, but as far as bossing with them goes, their mobility tools are surprisingly useful. They have multiple kinds of iframes, whether it be their baked-in 5th job skill, or Freud's Wisdom, which is the hero common skill, or of course stealing Final Cut from Dual Blader. What you're left with is a very hard to kill bosser, thanks to a mix of mobility and iframes, as well as a very defensive kit. You're never doing the same thing for too long, and thanks to cooldown skip and Tempest, your cooldown isn't even set in stone. Sometimes you just pop off and go Tempest after Tempest after Tempest, and you really feel that on the boss's DPS. And when you're doing things like Lucid, having something like Tempest be this high damage 360 AoE around you is really good for clearing out things like the golems. Visually, their abilities are very stunning, especially their origin skill, and the only real downside I have to say about Phantom is an incredibly personal one, and that is that I personally don't enjoy their mobbing. That is not to say that it's bad, it's actually decent, and they have a lot of versatility thanks to impeccable memory, providing you have the damage to take advantage of such versatility. What I don't like about their mobbing is it's very reliant on frequent low cooldowns and proper positioning, and I typically like a little bit, I like lazy mobbers. What can I say? I don't want to put a lot of effort in when I'm grinding. But as far as bossing is concerned, I'm loving it. I'm doing hard Damien and hard Lotus every week on it. I'm doing Lucid and Will. Probably going to start trying to push even more bosses on it, maybe get in some parties. I don't know. I just want to see it even more geared because I really have faith in Phantom's future. If I'm enjoying it this much right now when it's probably at the worst it's ever going to be, if it ever does get reworked, honestly probably looking at main potential or at least secondary. But at the end of the day, buff Phantom.